be. Mind you, you still love a good debate. It's why you watch The Five. But a political act within a sporting event, it's like turning on this very show and finding me and Dana playing badminton for an hour.
Oh my God.
It's not what you came here for. It's not why you watch. And let's be honest, seeing me in tight white shorts is not appropriate for 5 p.m.
Or ever.
Or ever. That is so true, Kimberly.
Throwing lots of shade at Kilmeade about the box and this and that. Glass houses, Tiny Dancer. Glass houses.
I'm not scared of Kilmeade.
Of me.
I'm asleep when he's up. All right, Jesse, welcome back. You had strep throat. We missed you.
Yes, thank you. Trump was right. I was sick of winning. That's what it was.
That's what happened.
Tired of winning.
Yes.
Tired of winning.
It was a purely natural vacation.
This time it was. Thank you for
Not
bringing
even
that up.
prearranged.
So, okay, I read Reason magazine. I usually respect what I like what they say, but they say that NFL was bowing to Trump. My theory is they wanted to nip this practice in the bud because you can kneel for anything. You can kneel about abortion or gun rights. If this keeps going, it never stops.
Yeah, I don't read Reason. I read the Weekly Standard because that's
Nice
what
job.
you gave me a subscription for. No one's trampling anyone's constitutional rights. We're all employees like we are here at Fox News. There's rules.
Yeah.
So you can't run wild, mostly rules so you can't run wild. There's HR rules, PR rules. It's just the fact that, like, Harf couldn't get here when she did her one more thing and take a knee every time. After a while, people would change the channel, and then the ratings would dip, and the company CEO would say, "Can you stop doing that?" And if you said no, you're fired. That's how it works. You're wearing their jersey,
quickly.
You're in their stadium,
uplifting.
you're playing for their team. They can tell you what to do or what not to do. I think it's a great idea. And Trump, he's not saying anything. He's not going to deport linebackers and free safeties. He's saying love it or leave it. You know,
Yeah.
he likes his country so much. It's hyperbole. He can't see how anybody wouldn't like this country at all. But the kneeling thing really hurt because it was misconstrued. They did it at the wrong time. Speak your mind on ESPN, on Fox News, on Twitter. On Sunday, play football. It hurt Jameel Hill. She lost her show. It hurt the commissioner. He got hit hard because of his erratic response. It hurt the ratings. Networks didn't like it. It hurt the players. Now, some of the players that kneeled are free agents, and they're having a hard time getting re-signed. So it even hurt the Democrats because they sided against 75% of the country. So I think this is a good thing, and I'm glad they've resolved it.
All right, Dana, you know, another argument for not defending the NFL ban is like, this is like shutting down speakers on campus, and you're kind of like a snowflake if you don't want them to kneel.
I saw some of that today, and I don't feel like the government should be telling any private organization what they can or should not do. I mean, unless it's like, you know, like harming people or illegal. Right. So I'm for private companies being able to do what they want to do. Colleges are meant to be places for free expression.
Right.
Most of them get taxpayer dollars. And I guess you could maybe say, well, the NFL shouldn't get any money, taxpayer dollars towards stadiums. Fine, I'm for that too. But the NFL is to play football. That's not a place where you expect to have a free exchange of ideas like you would on college campus. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's a free exchange of helmets to the head. Marie, you can't say that this is discriminating if it applies to everyone, correct?
Well, I think what the NFL didn't do correctly here, in my opinion, is it doesn't seem like they communicated adequately with the Players Association before they released this. And so now there's this fight in the public between the Players Association, who says they weren't consulted and they're looking at it, individual players, and the NFL. I know they wanted to get this out of the way before the next season. I get that, but it had sort of receded from the headlines. And so if they had really coordinated this and come out with a more comprehensive plan, here's our plan. We're going to find players if they kneel, but we're also going to undertake these 5 community activism steps that players have asked for. It seems like that would have been a better way to move forward. And the president's comments, once again, sort of throw more, you know, gasoline on the fire of what is a very controversial issue. So I think the NFL could have probably handled this a little better. And now you have people like the owner of the Jets who's come out and said he will pay the fines if his players get them. He won't pass them along because he wants his players to be able to express themselves.
That's an interesting point, KG, because then he's putting the onus, if that's the real word. It is?
It is,
It's not a function. It puts the onus on the other owners. It's the owner's onus It puts the onus on the owner. So now all the other owners got to go, well, the Jets are
Yes.
doing it. Should we do it? So I don't know. Is this going to struggle continue?
Yes, applying pressure. Yes,
Well, yes.
Would probably be a simpler term to use since you were struggling deeply with
Yes.
that. All right, so now I'm saying, okay, he's going to go ahead and do that. What about the rest of you? You know, show up, pay up, et cetera. But listen, I agree with President Trump on this because they're paid millions of dollars for the privilege of playing in one of the world's greatest sports, one that I love to watch as well. But really, there is a time for social justice and activism. I love it. Express yourself. That's what people fought for in this country so that all of us can sit here and have crazy, insane opinions at the table.
Why are you looking at me?
It was a side glance. One eye at you, one eye at Greg.
It's amazing how she can do that.
It's really unbelievable. I practice it a lot. And that's what we're here for, right? Is to be able to express opinions. But they're
Yeah.
paid a job. We're paid to do a job here. And we work for this company. They work for different teams in the NFL. If they have a problem with that, don't play then. And that's what he's trying to say. I like the use of hyperbole. That was excellent, Jesse.
Thank you.
Because
Better
he's
than
saying
Otis?
if you don't like the country, then, you can
Yeah, go
get to
play
step
for
in.
the CFL in Canada.
Right. Canada.
Right.
And then
Get
kneel
paid less.
before the Canadian flag. Yeah, how will that working? Do you think the Canadians are going to go for that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Go
They'll
play
let
for the
that slide.
French.
Group
Go
of
play for
people.
the French,
Polite.
Jesse.
Yeah, not French
No
Canadians.
uniforms
I
there.
know.
Dana,
They play touch.
the underlying truth
Yeah.
to all of this is that I have an inkling that everybody wants this behind them. Even
Yes.
Colin Kaepernick, everybody's like, okay, this wasn't supposed to go this long.
Right. I think that that's true. There's and then, well, you have people all say that we all want the same thing. We're all for America, et cetera. Yeah, absolutely. People want this behind them. And I think that's what the NFL was trying to do. I think that they handled it pretty well. I mean, they're going to have to do it at some point. Might as well do it now, get it over with. They had an owners meeting, move on. And I think the other thing is, now that they've laid out this policy, if it continues to happen, which I can't see how it would. I mean, if they're going to kneel, then there's going to be a problem unless you're the Jets. But they've laid out the policy. So now if you do it and you get fired, you're actually firing yourself. And you're making a choice.
Yeah. And it's another one of these issues, Jesse, that is like were you here when we were talking about Laurel and Yanny?
Yes.
It's
a
Laurel
Yanny.
and Yanny.
He's a Yanny.
Were you a Yanny? It's like
Yeah, but it's not 50-50. It's
Yeah.
like 80-20 in this country. And I don't have a problem with people wanting to talk about race and police brutality. That's a noble cause, but just don't do it during the time where people are supposed to be unified under one flag. And it's fine to be all about activism, but it's all about symbols with these people. They wear the hat, they walk out of class over guns, they do the Black Power thing, that's fine. But then when you say, well, what do you want to do about it? What's the solution? They go, oh, well, we have to do something. And they don't ever really offer any solutions. And I think that's what people had a problem with. What do the players want? What specifically are they addressing? What are the solutions to police brutality and racism? No one knew what those were. So that's why people were upset, because it just looked
Well,
unpatriotic.
also, the NFL really can't afford, I don't think, to have a situation where they do go another season like
Right.
this. And it's not just because of the ratings, but there's all sorts of different pressures, lots of different people watching different things, but also this recent decision by the Supreme Court about sports betting. That's a much bigger issue that the NFL needs to deal with right now. So I think it's
Also-
right to get this over with.
also the brain injuries are a bit
Yes.
more.
Yes, that's a bigger issue, I think, long term for the NFL. And there are some players like Malcolm Jenkins of your Philadelphia Eagles who went to Ohio State. I will remind you.
The Ohio State.
The Ohio State University, who has actually put out plans and ideas for how to work with community activists and law enforcement. He's been doing these meetings on his own with some other players. He is taking proactive
for him.
steps. More players should do that like he has been doing.
Go
Yeah.
Eagles.
Last
Go
word,
Eagles.
Kimberly.
I think you should focus on actually playing football so they can keep their job. Look what happened to Kaepernick. Just saying, he was horrendous for the 49ers, almost ruined my football dynasty. Thank God we got rid of him. He can kneel all he wants now.
Yeah. I still feel bad about the 49ers.
So, right?
They were my
we
my
were the
team.
best team ever. Everybody
my
looked
team.
up to the 49ers. We had the best quarterbacks. We had Steve Young. We had Joe
Yes.
Montana. We had Ronnie Lott, my favorite number
we got
42.
Randy
Garoppolo.
Cross.
Great book, Total Impact. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Got to shut up now. I'm talking about myself. President Trump cancels the North Korea summit. His message to the North next.
In a major turn of events, President Trump is calling off next month's highly anticipated summit with North Korea's Kim Jong-un, blaming increasingly hostile rhetoric from the rogue regime. The president explains why he pulled the plug.
I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed a setback for the world. Hopefully, positive things will be taking place with respect to the future of North Korea. But if they don't, we are more ready than we have ever been before. It's possible that the existing summit could take place or a summit at some later date. Nobody should be anxious. We have to get it right.
As expected, Democrats are spiking the football over the summit cancellation.
I think it's a good thing for Kim Jong-un. When he got this letter from the president saying, okay, never mind, he must be having a giggle fit.
The art of diplomacy is a lot harder than the art of the deal.
The president was rehearsing his end zone dance, and we weren't even at the 50-yard line yet on this summit.
All right, lots of football metaphors, more kneeling, however. And so President Trump, Jesse, taking a strong stance on this, but, he's right. You can't go into something unless you have it worked out and it's operating from a position of strength. And he's saying to them, listen, we're better prepared than ever before, meaning don't mess with us, a little bit of flexing there, and saying, hey, we're not going to cater to him.
Trump did what Kerry should have done, and that's be willing to walk away from the table. Now, like you said, we're negotiating from a position of strength. I believe Little Rocket Man lost face, was put in his place. Trump is big into respect. He badmouthed our vice president, and then they were playing coy with the prep work for Singapore. So Trump just took a step back and said, let's just work this out. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. It's still just gamesmanship. We still may have this summit down the line. Nobody knows that for sure, but they have done a lot of concessions. They destroyed the missile site. They've stopped ballistic missile testing. They've released hostages, and they crossed the DMZ to shake hands with Moon to signal an end to the Korean War. With that said, the media is totally out of line when it comes to their criticism here. They're trying to score political points against a Republican president, but they end up trying to make Little Rocket Man look like the winner here. How can, when you announce the summit in the beginning, the media says, oh, that's a win for Kim, and then when you bail out of the summit, they say, oh, that's a win for Kim. Which one is it? And they've done this the entire time. Fire and Fury helped Kim. We didn't have strong enough sanctions. China was not going to play ball with us. We're alienating our allies. Remember what they said about the sister of Kim? Yes. She was the big diplomat, but Ivanka, no. She was just messing things up. So the whole time they've been on the side of Kim. I don't take anything they say seriously anymore.
I must change my name immediately. Yes. Okay. All right, so Little Rocket Man's like the little runaway bride. He doesn't want to go show up at the summit. He's like creating problems. He's being obstreperous. But Dana, this is also to be expected because it's kind of part and parcel with how he has behaved in the past.
It's how they act. In fact, I was talking to someone who said it's actually more comforting now to have Kim Jong-un acting normal because this is how he acts. And it is interesting to put the onus on President Trump when it was Little Rocket Man that changed his rhetoric. That's actually what happened. But also remember the montage Greg had of President Trump every time he talked about North Korea saying, but we'll see what happens. Like, that's actually what he meant, that we'll see what happens. And he's not afraid to walk away from it. He left the door open. I am really curious about China's role here, and maybe one day, I don't need to know right now, but I would love to know one day when everything is solved.
You think it has something to do with the trade negotiations?
Certainly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And also, I think South Korea is way too eager for this, and they need to figure out how to tap the brakes a little bit and accept that President Trump, when he says, we'll see what happens, that's what he means. And I understand they might be frustrated that they didn't hear from him before this news came out, but it's not your typical diplomacy.
Negotiation, for sure. All right, Greg, what can you add to this conversation?
A lot.
Yes.
First, I'm going to suggest an angle to Rachel Maddow. This was all done as a play to drive up the price of the commemorative coins that were made for the summit. Now that they're not going to be used, they're going to be more expensive. So Trump is trying to turn a profit off a canceled meeting. Look, it's like the media has never bought a car or a new car.
Lemon.
because even though I do feel a bit disappointed, I'm not surprised because I understand that in negotiation, the only way negotiations work is if it's a race to leave the table first. You got to be the first one to leave. And I have to say, we didn't mention Trump's letter. the letter he wrote to
Classic.
Oh, it was amazing. You know what it was? It was perfect tough love. It was Trump's language was the exact same tone as the parents who kicked out the 30-year-old. Remember, it's like, we wanted to do what's best for you. It really could have been good, but you really should get a job and think about how you're going to pay for your apartment. That's what he's saying. He said, this could really work out. It's a shame that it's not happening. But the fact is, Trump, this is what he does. He would negotiate over a bread roll at the dinner table. And this is what happens. The good about China, we're no longer the welcome mat for China. They're ticked off because we disinvited them from attending one of our naval drills. And so they're mad about that. But the last time they were there, they spied on us and they stole technology.
Yeah.
So I think, I think this is all coming. I'm cautiously optimistic, a tad disappointed, but I was prepared.
It's because you were invested in coins.
Well, it would be
Yes.
much worse to go to a summit and try to force something and then have to swallow something that wasn't good.
Exactly.
Right,
And William Devane bought a lot of those coins.
No, he's showing a good edge in terms of the diplomacy and how he's handling this, and it is far more complex. It does involve China, but that's why President Trump had Pompeo go over there to make sure that back channels are open communication between North Korea, South Korea, China, and then Little Rocket Man wants to be reassured that if he does engage in this denuclearization, that we'll honor our bargain and the regime will stay in power. Stay tuned for all of that, right, Marie?
Yes, well, and I think it'll be interesting to see if the administration goes back to the drawing board, goes back to basics, goes back to the substance, and starts thinking through what they actually want to get from this. Yeah. Because I agree that a summit is important, but they need to do a little more of the prep work. Clearly, everyone wasn't on the same page. They have to go back to the South Koreans and make sure they are okay. They were, I think, surprised by the announcement today. Yesterday, they were saying it's a 99% chance of happening. So I think that the president was right in keeping the door open to diplomacy today in his letter, with a little hint of threat of nuclear war.
But that was a response to their threat.
Thrown in.
Yeah.
But I think they also now have to realize that words matter.
Right.
They were upset at the vice president, and the White House today has actually even admitted that the vice president's comments were not helpful. So everyone needs to take a breath, go back to the diplomatic drawing board. Pompeo, I think, will be very helpful in that regard.
And he has been so far in this process, and the president trusts him, it seems, so that's fantastic.
Yes, that's right.
All right, well, it's troubled waters for the Democratic blue wave in California, indeed.
Okay. I'm going to pull myself together here because Jesse's cracking me up. All right, there's more evidence suggesting the blue wave is crashing for Democrats. A new report says polling in California shows President Trump's rising popularity is bad news for Democrats in key House races there. Trump's approval rating is surging in Orange County, where 4 tight races could determine where the Republicans hold the House. And this may be an example of why. Watch as a business owner confronts Nancy Pelosi over her recent crumbs remark.
When the tax and jobs bill was passed, I gave my employees a $1,000 bonus plus a 5% pay increase that they appreciated very much. Add to that, they reduced withholding from their paychecks, and it turned to a noticeable increase in income. It certainly was not crumbs to them.
Oh, so the crumb comment came back to haunt them. Kimberly, another thing that's happening in your home state of California is they have what's called a jungle primary. So there's a lot of enthusiasm on the Democratic side. A whole bunch of people wanted to run. So they've watered down the votes on the Democratic side, and whoever the top 2 vote getters are on primary day on June 5th, those 2 people go to the runoff, and it could be that in a couple of these races that the Democrats are totally shut out and don't even have a candidate.
Yeah, well, what's going to be interesting is that I know the Democrats are very worried if the race comes down to a certain individual that I may have been associated with in the past, Gavin Newsom and John Cox, if the 2 of them run against each other. And this is something I find to be very interesting is that, and I've been predicting this, and I have advised on this to say, watch out. Getting too crazy and too far left, because Orange County there has really been surging, and the poll numbers that are coming in there are quite considerable and formidable. So that's something that the Republican can count on. John Cox, who's been endorsed by the president and making positive comments, et cetera, about him. So this is going to be one of the more interesting, races to watch, because you have Gavin Newsom, you have Vera Gosa, you've got John Cox now trying to surge. So I think it's going to be more fascinating than we're accustomed to in California.
And Marie, Pelosi's comment about crumbs might have played really well in certain places, pretty progressive places. But if you're fighting for the majority in places like Orange County, and it comes down to that, it's not helpful. And the sanctuary city policy, et cetera, like in Orange County, it is not a blue county yet. It's still red-ish orange.
Right, or literally Orange County. Well, and Orange County isn't representative of the larger issues in California. I think that her comments probably play well in other parts of the state. But I think what's been interesting is the Democratic Party has really been focused on running candidates that match their districts. And so while Nancy Pelosi is very popular in some districts and raises a lot of money, she's not in others. So we see people, not just Connor Lamb, but there are a lot of Connor Lambs out there running in this cycle. They're raising a lot of money, and they are not parroting what Nancy Pelosi says. So I think that it will be very interesting. I am by no means spiking the football a couple months before the midterms. I think that some Democrats are overly optimistic. It's going to be very interesting. And in some of these states like New Jersey, New York, Illinois, even California, where the tax bill hasn't been as helpful because of the state and local tax issue.
And in the first year when there was the gubernatorial races like in Virginia and New Jersey, but Virginia in particular, that first year of President Trump, there was a huge amount of Democratic enthusiasm, and the Republican loses in Virginia. I don't know if that necessarily would happen today, just because the second year things feel a little bit more, there's a lot of results, people feel a little bit more comfortable, and so maybe this midterm is not going to be what the Democrats thought.
It's looking like that. Good news for America is bad news for Democrats. If you just look at the statistics that have come out, wages have gone up 3% under the Trump administration. It's the biggest surge in wages in 18 years. Consumer confidence near a 20-year high. People have $2,000 extra in their pockets for a family. Families are flush. They can feel it. And the stock market's doing well, and people's 401ks are better. When you combine that with the fact that we've been safer as a country, you're more prosperous and safe, that's hard to run against. So the Democrats, all they have, like Greg said, identity politics, because they don't have an identity. I mean, what is the Democratic identity? Their slogan they stole from Trump in the midterms, it's drain the swamp. I mean, come on, you guys can do better than that.
It's been 18 months since the election, and the Democrats seem to have not settled in on one sort of a message, because they're changing things, they're calling things crumbs. It's like they're not quite sure what they want to be.
Well, first of all, Trump's approval better be soaring in Orange County. It is orange. 2, Nancy will never live down the crumbs moment. That is her Britney Spears shaved head moment. It will be stuck with her forever. But about this, I get a little depressing here. It's not about Trump. A lot of it is about California, which is a slow-rolling disaster due to incompetent governance and destructive policies. It is resembling the day room from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because I had Dr. Drew on my podcast. He is predicting serious infectious disease explosions in California because of the homeless situation. Because of the homeless situation, the human waste that is created, combined with rodents, which outnumber humans 10 to 1. This is happening. If you have seen the homeless encampments in California, that is the consequence of destructive progressive policies. And you combine that with the diseases are spread by fleas and rodents. The rodents are in this. I'm telling you.
Are you going to record a commercial? Because it's frightening. I think people will go out to vote.
This is actually true. I mean, the last time this happened, it rhymed with the plague.
This is a great ad.
No, I'm telling you. You have human homeless encampments. The waste is measured in tons. You have rodents that are outnumbering people. And you combine that together, the fleas spread this. California is in for a really scary time. Okay. I'm scaring myself.
You are. That's what's
Am I really on TV right now?
You're not. You're in your head, though, for sure.
Yes.
Okay, well, we will save everyone and move on. 2 highly anticipated meetings on the Russia investigation today, all surrounding the president's Spygate claims. The details next.
Tailgate for 2 underneath the stars. Kiss on your lips when you're in my
arms. 2 big briefings in Washington as House and Senate lawmakers from both parties meet with intelligence officials on the Russia investigation. This comes amid reports of an FBI informant talking to Trump campaign insiders and the president making accusations of a spy. In his exclusive interview on Fox and Friends, Trump continues to take aim at former FBI Director James Comey.
I think a thing that I've done for the country, the firing of James Comey, is going to go down as a very good thing. FBI is great, but some of the people at the top were rotten apples. James Comey was one of them.
Rotten James Comey. Meanwhile, James Clapper claims the Russians not only affected the outcome of the election, they decided it.
It's what I would call my informed opinion that given the massive effort the Russians made and the number of citizens that they touched, And given the fact that it turned on less than 80,000 votes in 3 states, to me, it just exceeds logic and credulity that they didn't affect the election. And it's my belief they actually turned it.
All right, so the Obama administration likes to brag that they never had a scandal. Well, I think we just found one, Marie, and one of the pieces of evidence linking that is we have new Strzok page texts, and at one point Strzok says the White House is running this, meaning the counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign.
How do you know what they
What
said?
say you?
Did it say that?
Jesse has rested
If you
his
look
case.
at the context, it's very clear.
I'm done.
Kimberly, what about you?
Yes, I concur with your
wait.
assessment.
Okay, so I think that the Mueller investigation is serious and is getting more serious, and the president is deciding whether or not to sit down and talk with Bob Mueller. Against that backdrop, I think the president and his supporters are trying to sort of create an alternative narrative about what they feel is a scandal without putting forward any evidence to back it up.
There's no evidence
There was no
of abuse
spy.
of power here.
There was no spying on the Trump campaign. That is not true.
Why not?
Because there's
if you
no
have an
evidence
FBI
to support
informant,
that,
possibly 2 to
Jesse.
3, talking to 3 to 4 Trump campaign officials before the counterintelligence investigation was opened, you don't think that's a spy in the campaign?
I do not.
Why
and
not?
that's not what the intelligence community would call it either. So
What would they call it?
supporters of the president call it that, to distract from the Russia investigation and discredit Bob Mueller. So I think why
Comey
today's...
said it was like some human
I think-
intelligence
but I think-
asset or
I
something
think
like
why
that.
today's meetings were
That's
important.
like calling an intern a coffee transportation specialist.
I think why today's meetings were important, and it was important that they included Democrats, was because there's a lot of insinuations that are put out there by the supporters of the president that I think are designed to discredit the investigation. So what we really need is the actual transparency and information. And if you're right,
Listen.
I will tell you you're right. Okay?
well,
I
let's
will.
hear it, because
Well, but
I
you're
am
not.
right, because there has been no transparency.
Right.
Every time they ask questions, which they have oversight of, I'm talking about the Congress people of the DOJ and the FBI, they're stonewalled, right,
They're
Kimberly?
stonewalled. They want to release documents. They redact. They submit false dossiers that are paid for by Hillary Clinton. So when you look at all like the bad actor behavior, it's coming from the other side. And now you see, in fact, the collusion appears to be, and the IG report will confirm this, if they were acting in concert to try to undermine a presidential candidate and specifically engage in spying, okay? In a campaign, they had no authority to do so. If you were that concerned that there was influence of Russians, then you should have knocked on the door and said, beware. And instead, they decided to try to take things into their own hands. And if I were James Comey, I would be zipping it. Because by the time the IG report comes out, he won't be able to give his book away. Same for clap on, clap off. So the two Jims are in big trouble. And I also think like McCabe, he's in trouble too. So we'll see how this goes. But, you know, they're trying to get out ahead of it and preempt because they
Right.
know how bad it is, because they know what, in fact, they've done.
Kind of stunning that James Clapper said what he said, Dana. I mean, he's been known as a liar and a leaker, and now he's pulling a number out of thin air saying that votes were affected to the point where Trump wouldn't have won. Where do you think he came up with that?
Well, I think that is extremely curious. So hopefully we'll find out more. And then, he prefaces it by saying it's my informed opinion, and he would have been in a position to know something, I guess. Except for the big problem with all of this is that if you believe all of that, then you have to believe that our government is totally incompetent. Because if they were trying to throw the race against against Trump, well, they really didn't do a good job. But also, I think the big problem for Democrats is that we just did a block about how the Democrats have spent 18 months and they haven't figured out what they're going to be for and what they're going to say. And to have somebody like Clapper reinforce in their minds that Hillary Clinton lost because of the Russians makes it so much harder for them to actually figure out a message. With a little bit of effort, the campaign in Brooklyn, if they would have left Brooklyn and get to Wisconsin and Michigan, they probably could have won.
Right, not helpful from Clapper. Greg Gutfeld.
So we have a collusion competition. We got two stories going on. The initial collusion story, Russia and Trump, really is the media's morphine. It's the drip, drip, drip that keeps them in dreamland to cover up the pain they still feel for Trump's victory. Now let's move on to what Trump is calling Spygate. So I'm going to try and decipher, Marie, your response to that, which I believe reflects all of media. So we all know, everybody, we all know that there really was no spying whatsoever. There was no spying whatsoever. But if there was, it was good spying. It was like a spy vaccine that protects against the worst spying. But again, there was no spying. But please don't reveal the name of the non-spy, because he's definitely not a spy. And you don't want to blow his cover for not being a spy. So A, no spying, but it's good spying. And please don't reveal the name of the spy, because he's not a spy.
Charitable spying.
That's right. Get your story straight, Democrats. Up next, who's on the 5? They're addicted to their cell phones. Find out next.
Across the USA, and everybody needs to...
Well, the Memorial Day holiday weekend is just around the corner, and just like you, the 5 can't wait. But will we be able to shut down, relax, and put away our cell phones, as all of us look at our cell phones here? A new study says not a chance. Americans check their phones 80 times per day on average while on vacation. Jesse?
Oh.
Very good.
That was happy.
Anything
that was
interesting on your
almost
phone?
compelling acting right there.
I sold it.
So
Yeah.
because you are on Instagram, you do a lot of Instagramming.
Do I?
Insta nonsense, yes.
Yes.
I think that's
do you
David
also
Schwimmer.
do it on vacation?
I'm going to try to stop this vacation. It's hard because you're in the news business. You don't want to come back on Monday and be like, what happened? Is the summit back on?
Right.
So, but this time I really want to throw away the phone, and I'm going to really make a concerted effort to ditch the phone.
Where are you going?
I'm not going to tell people for security reasons,
Yeah.
but
Okay, you
That's
weren't kidding.
my answer.
So we'll check with
I'm
you
sticking
on
with that, too.
Tuesday, and we'll see how you did.
yes.
Dana, are you a vacation phone
I do find it
checker?
hard to take a break from it because it's so hard to catch up.
Right.
And there's also, it's a wonderful time to be in news. There's so much news.
Yeah.
And if you, there's lots of great stuff being written, keeping in touch with people.
Yeah.
Pictures of Jasper are amazing.
Amazing.
But yes, of course, I would like to not have to look at it as much as I do.
There are times when I go places that have really bad reception, and I actually find it very soothing because then I can't check my phone. No.
Anxiety producing.
So you're like a phone all the time person.
You know why? Because I like the news. I mean, that's my vacation. I want to read about it. I want to look what's going on. I'm interested in it. I want to check the pictures. What's Dana doing? Having a better life than me? I want to see it. I want to see it. Okay. I'm like, oh, there's the beach. Okay. There's Van. Okay. There's Jasper frolicking in the waves, and then it makes me
Jasper
happy.
has a better life
I
than
feel
all
like
of us.
I'm on vacation then.
Yeah.
Greg?
In the problem lies the solution, Marie. You need to treat your phones like anything in life, delayed gratification. If you don't look at something for 2 hours, then come back and you see what you find. It's a digital Christmas. They're like, it's all of a sudden your phone becomes a little.
Otherwise, it's just Monday.
It's just Monday, but instead, if 3 or 4 times you have a little digital Christmas where you're opening gifts or GIFs. See what I did there? The world is
We can say digital Christmas now.
The world is
thank
a
God.
hard place if you don't have something to look forward to. And we always, like, if you keep checking your phone, there's nothing there, it actually makes you feel kind of bad.
Like, no one cares.
No one cares. So if you just put it off, the phone can create moments of the day where you actually feel good and look forward. Instead of being distracted, you become delighted. And you avoid the status inequality that drives everybody crazy.
You know what I would pay for?
Everybody has a
Here's a
phone.
business for somebody.
What?
If I were to take a break from my phone for 4 days, can you produce for me a 3-page memo of what happened so that I wouldn't feel like I missed out, and then I could just catch up that morning? That's brilliant.
Don't you have an assistant?
I was going to say, someone at Fox now
Obviously.
has that task.
I would lie throughout the whole thing. I'm very sorry to hear about your family.
Gosh, you're.
You were a downer tonight, man.
Oh, I'm an upper. I'm filled with reality.
This is his status quo. His homeostasis.
On that note, one more thing is up next. Stay tuned.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville.
Time for one more thing, Kimberly.
Okay, so this is a follow-up on a story I did back in April, and today President Trump granted a rare and historic posthumous pardon for the first African-American heavyweight boxing champion, Jack Johnson. And the pardon clears Johnson of racially motivated charges resulting from his relationship with a white woman in 1912, if you can believe it. Senator John McCain had called for the pardon. His great-grandniece and also Sylvester Stallone specifically went to President Trump to try to lobby on his behalf. And there was an Oval Office event today along with former champion Lennox Lewis, current champion Deontay Wilder, and Johnson's family. So take a look at this. So it's a story of triumph and tragedy, but it's not over yet. And President Donald Trump hopefully will pardon this fine American and put him back in the ranks where he belongs, of one of boxing's greatest. I'm a huge fan of boxing. I always used to watch with my father, and so he taught me about this boxer as well. So I think this is really, long overdue, and so I'm happy that this happened, and God bless his family and his relatives that see this.
Excellent.
All right, you like baseball?
Yeah, but that's not as good as Kimberly's.
No,
Go ahead.
no, nothing will top Kimberly's today. All right, any fan knows that the best part of the baseball game is when those big, mascots decide to run. In last night's game in Dallas, they had the mascots were Nolan Ryan, Sam Houston, and George W. Bush. There was a heckler there trying to get the Bush one to move forward. Watch this. It reminds me of when President Bush decided to run a marathon and his mom was there to cheer him on, and she said the same thing, get moving so that you wouldn't lose. The good news is the Bush character won.
Excellent. All right, time for this. Greg's commuter news. You know, when you're hitching a ride, whether it's hitchhiking or sharing a seat, make sure you're actually inside the vehicle. Not like this little fella. Take a look at this kid. Right at the top of the car. Apparently the family was unaware that the cat was on the car. Yes, and had been clinging to the roof of the van.
Is that the Romney car?
No, terrible. Was hitched a ride for 2 miles. 2 miles. But good news, the cat did not survive. Kidding! The cat's fine. Everything's fine. They reunited. It's not injured.
So
and the cat's name is Rebel, and the cat
without a cause
was not even phased. They said, but please do not put cats on the roof of cars. That's not a good thing.
Oh my gosh, that's terrible.
That's really,
Oh, I've got it. Where are we now? Jesse? Oh my God.
Yes, brace yourself, Greg. New study out, an extra glass of wine could take 30 minutes off your life. The old study said that men could drink 14 glasses of wine a week, and that was good. That apparently study was way off. Fake news. Apparently, 7 glasses of wine for men, that's the way to go. When you have more than that, you die young. So,
you mean a night?
A week.
I was like, you're going to die.
That'll
sooner
definitely
than
kill
that.
you.
Yeah, but there's a new study out that says champagne and aspirin is excellent for you. It prevents dementia.
Who commissioned that study?
You should start.
She did.
Immediately.
Fair.
All right,
No,
Marie.
this is a real story. Look it up.
So the Stanley Cup is set. The series starts Monday, May 28th, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights, an expansion team, have reached the Stanley Cup in their first season. They're going up against the Washington Capitals, who are only playing in their second Stanley Cup final ever. The Golden Knights are the best first-year expansion team in pro sports history, and their inaugural game was played right after the tragic shooting in Las Vegas. It was really a moment for the town to come together and honor the victims. So it's going to be a really great series between these two teams, and we're going to get a historic outcome because
The Capitals are gonna win.
Neither team has ever won the Stanley Cup, so this year will be a first.
No one cares about hockey.
Did you really just cross all over my one more thing?
No one cares about
Oh, you're going to get letters.
You're going to meet a few hockey players.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. Your walk home ain't going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that,
going to be
champ.
waiting outside.
And they're
for you.
not worried about losing their
All right.
teeth.
Set your DVRs. Never miss an episode of The Five. Don't be callous. Brett's in Dallas.
Nice. Thank you, Greg. You lost me on the hockey talk. Go Caps. President Trump cancels next month's planned summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, but leaves the door open to get it back on the calendar. Intelligence officials brief lawmakers concerning the investigation into the Trump presidential campaign and allegations of a spy. And which party has the stronger message heading into the midterm elections? This is Special Report. Good evening, I'm Bret Baier. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell joins me for an exclusive interview in just a moment. But first, President Trump has pulled the plug on what would have been historic face-to-face talks with the leader of the world's most reclusive country. It comes after the North Korean government called Vice President Mike Pence a dummy and said it was just as ready to meet the U.S. on the nuclear battlefield as the negotiating table. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Greg Palkot is in Seoul with reaction from South Korea, but we start start off with Chief White House Correspondent John Roberts and what has been described as a nuclear Dear John letter, essentially, from the president. Good evening, John.
Brett, good evening. It was a Dear John letter that only the president could write, one that holds the promise of reconciliation, but also includes a threat to burn your house down if you don't behave.
I've decided to terminate the planned summit in Singapore on June 12th.
In a morning letter to Kim Jong-un, President Trump today cited anger and open hostility in recent statements made by North Korean officials as the reason for scrapping the summit.
Well, many things can happen, and a great opportunity lies ahead, potentially. I believe that this is a tremendous setback for North Korea and indeed a setback for the world.
What killed the deal was a statement from North Korea's Deputy Foreign Minister, Cho Sun-hui, who said North Korea was ready for a nuclear-to-nuclear showdown with the U.S. if talks failed. Cho was reacting to a statement from Vice President Mike Pence on Monday, which she termed stupid and called Pence a political dummy.
As the president made clear, this will only end like the Libyan model ended if Kim Jong-un doesn't make a deal.
Some people saw that as a threat.
Well, I think it's more of a fact.
In his letter to Kim, President Trump